Let's tackle competency 4. So this is all about your organizational pattern. So your organizational structure of your presentation. So as you're creating it, you'll think about what sort of pattern do I need that makes sense. So if you're ordering your main points in a particular way, then you might think about, do I want them to be topical? Do I want them to be chronological? Does it make the most sense if it's in chronological order, linear sequential? So for example, when I was talking about how to bake a cake, how to do this, how to do that, a demonstration, then that needs to be in a particular order, so it's chronological. Topical are little mini topics, so topical just includes main points that aren't necessarily in a particular order. So little mini topics based on your thesis statement. And there are many others. Your textbook talks about different types. You can do spatial pattern, you can do a star pattern. There's so many different ones, but the two most common ones are really going to be the topical, little mini topics, or chronological. Let's take a look, continuing on with competency 4, at internal transition. So we talked about listing main points. Boom, 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 3 main points. But you'll also talk about those internal transitions, so connecting those main points, bridging those main points. So when I talked about how to bake a red velvet cake, and I said, let's start with mixing ingredients, then when I'm moving on, I'm going to restate the previous point and then introduce the next point. And remember, the main points are little mini categories or little mini sections, okay? So for example, I talked about how to gather ingredients for baking red velvet cake. So we talked about how to bake ingredients for red velvet cake. Now let's talk about mixing ingredients. Now that we covered mixing ingredients, let's talk about baking ingredients. So bridging, referring back to the previous point and introducing the next point. And it gives a nice pattern for audiences to follow along. And then you'll also connect to the conclusion. Now that you know more about baking a red velvet cake, okay, that could be my connecting conclusion statement, my transition, then I want to summarize. We covered gathering ingredients, mixing ingredients, baking ingredients. So those 3 main points. So I'm just relisting my main points. And then a definitive final statement. And you can borrow from your introduction section. So whatever you did in your attention gainer, did you ask a question? You could answer it in the concluding final statement. If you told a quick little story, then you could refer to that story. If you told a statistic, you could refer back to the statistic, okay? So definitive final statement, okay? And just make it nice and cyclical. All right, see you for the next competency, competency 5.